Hi everybody, BL here, hoping that you're doing well, working on your puzzle one piece at a time. This video is going to talk briefly about Hurricanes Harvey, Dorian in the country of Venezuela. Just some thoughts. I'm not sure if I've connected some dots. Actually, I kind of have some ideas, but you know me. I put it out there, let you connect your own dots, let you do your own research. My job is to get you to think about it. So first, let me talk about Venezuela. So Venezuela has over 200 billion barrels in oil reserves. Let's find those articles, actually. Is this the one I wanted? Well, that's Bahamas. Cane. Alright, I didn't save it. Well, okay. That's all good. Let's sit here for a minute. Venezuela has over 200 billion barrels in oil reserves. Over the years, we know there have been coups, attempted coups, failed coups. A coup d'etat, that's when some faction tries or successfully overthrows the government and takes over as a new government, unofficially, undemocratically, or whatever their normal process is. They avoid the process and they just show up and we're the bosses now and whatever. So, right now, we've got, they have, Guaido and Maduro, and one is elected and one is self-declared, and so they kind of have, I guess, two leaders or whatever the case may be. The international community recently has begun to embrace the self-declared president. But we know there's been some outside influence from other countries meddling inside their business, helping to get it to where it is. So, what's the history? As we know, as it goes around, there's greed, outside influences politically, and then the people creating unrest, creating conflict amongst the people. When you create the unrest, it's easy to get in, divide and conquer. But here's the kicker in regards to Venezuela. The oil that Venezuela has some sort of limitations in its refinery process. Corpus Christi is the only refinery at present that has the capacity to refine Venezuela's oil properly. It's not Louisiana or, the other refineries along the coast. The one in Corpus Christi has the capacity to refine the oil that Venezuela has in the right way. So, keep that in mind. And then also you have, this caravan of people coming up. That's why there's been such a need, or we've got to secure the borders, There's been some talk. I even heard some people say, well, you know what? United States came in to our country. They created chaos, helped overthrow, help, just decimate our economy, etc., etc. So we're going up there. I don't know about the truth of all of that. This video is not about all of that. But though it does bear good just to know that when you're doing your research. So let's move on along to Hurricane Harvey. Hurricane Harvey 2 years ago flooded out Houston, and as far as I'm concerned, pretty much sold up the coastal areas. Florida's been hit left and right for so long. They already have right people on the ground controlling what they need to control. You've got the refineries from Louisiana. You've got Mobile Bay. You've got Louisiana. You've got Houston. You've got Corpus. You've got that whole Gulf. Those are all of the major cities along the Gulf. Texas is pretty much an anti-federal state. They've been trying to secede from the Union for years now. They wouldn't let the feds in to have any kind of rule or control over them in any way. But what happens when you create a crisis? When a crisis is created, people in panic and emotion and desperation will welcome anybody, even their enemies. Even Trojan horses who, have ulterior motives but come with a smile on their face. Hurricane Harvey came in and it did what? It put boots on the ground in Corpus and in Houston. Louisiana had already been taken care of with Katrina and other storms along the way. So, I know in Harvey people were not evacuated until the last minute, and it was kind of like one subdivision at a time. And this video is not primarily about Harvey, so I won't go into the details, but I experienced it directly. And I do know that there's definitely some concerns as to how those reservoirs were breached, and the flooding and stuff that took over that basically decimated Houston and made sure it took care of certain areas, etc. But again, you create a crisis and people will welcome anybody who says they can help. Let's move on along to Abaco in the Bahamas. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and pull up these maps. Here is the map. Here's the Abacos Islands here. You've got Grand Bahama Island here. You've got Nassau, Paradise here. The Exumas, Cat Island, Long Island, and you know, all the other islands along the way. So the distance between the Abacos and Nassau, depending on what portion of the islands you're looking at, is somewhere between 60 and 90 miles. So now I ask this. Do I have a picture of the hurricanes? Let's go back to the hurricanes. This is Hurricane Dorian here. If this is Hurricane Dorian, and this is as it's moved up a little bit. It was down a little further at one point. Yeah, they all start down here, out in the Atlantic Ocean. But here it is sitting over Freeport, which is in Grand Bahamas. It's sitting here. Here's the Abacos Islands over here. Now we know, yes, those that sit, the locations that sit to the right, the lower right, if you want to do quadrants of the storm, tends to get the worst hit just because they've got the oncoming hit of the wind, and then they've got the second half of that wind coming back around. So, but here's my question. As this storm is traveling along, why these other islands didn't get that front hit and the tail hit? Especially all the others. Go back to my map. As it's traveling up here, now this is where that other, not that one. Dang, I keep flipping. I don't know my screens. We look in here, and now we're going to go ahead and flip to here. This is over here. So as this storm is traveling up, why these people didn't get more damage? Why Nassau? I'm still tripping on why Nassau didn't get more damage. Grand Bahamas didn't get more damage. But this guy, and it just, the storm just sat here. Still kind of, now, and I asked myself, I remember at one point there was a question about President Trump saying that the storm was going to hit Alabama, and then I can't remember which one, I think the National Oceanic Atmospheric Association or whatever they are, said yes, it's going to hit, and National Weather Service said no. I'm not sure which one said, but bottom line, there was some contradiction there. If the storm is going up the entire east coast of the U.S., Florida, Georgia, Carolinas, all the way up, and at one point, one image I saw showed the storm up the entire coast at one time. Now, at this point, this is after it's past this area, but it's up the entire coast. How is it then that it could get right here and do all of that without doing more damage to some of these other areas? I'm just wondering, how is it could do all of that without doing more damage to some of these other areas? Why is it that it pulverized, decimated, brought down to rubble one particular area and left others with rebuild potential? Now the Abacoast Islands pretty much rebuild. No, it's almost like you have to bulldoze and start all over again. But the other areas, they can rebuild from where they are. Maybe the storm, taking a break or a nap or a rest stop, if you will, to poop. They took a rest stop right over the Abacoast to poop its mess all in that particular area. It's been mentioned was to cover for other things that would occur at the same time. Visibility is poor. No one's watching because everybody's hunkered down somewhere with, they're trying to be safe. The sounds of the storm drown out any other sounds. Who knows what was going on while that storm was happening. And then I asked myself, how is it they can always send all these planes into these storms? They can send the plane in, and the plane can take pictures. It can gather all kinds of data, speed and intensity, density, and whatever else they're gathering, and come on out fine. If a plane can go in there and get all this information, and it's anchored to nothing, I mean, it doesn't weigh enough. Apparently, if this storm could tear down steel buildings and heavily fortified concrete and all that other stuff, you should be able to take out an airplane quickly. But these planes can go inside these storms and come out fine. How is it then that the damage to these buildings, these fixed structures that are fixed into the ground, fared so poorly? I'm just, anyway. And I look at some of the pictures of the officials. They all look so fresh and clean and pressed and nice and bright and ready to roll. I'm looking, I see in some locations vehicles driving around like all's okay. I showed y'all another video where Never Lose Truth, I believe it was, grabbed the live cam at the time the storm was supposed to be hitting in the Abacoast, and you got Nassau, and it's almost if they had no storm. You couldn't see any surge, you couldn't see choppy water, it was just like, a little bit of wind today, that's it. That's what the water showed. So why is it 200 mile per hour winds only affected this certain location in the manner that it did? When you look at the Abacoast Islands, even the crops, the land is destroyed for rebuild even of crops. I drive around the southeast now and I look at the land and I see the lands look almost lifeless, like no vitality, like, now besides what's being dumped on a regular basis with the chemtrails and the rain and stuff, besides the flooding with nasty water, with swamp water, with dam water that has how much bacteria and stuff in it. In the Abacoast, you also have oil. We heard almost nothing about the oil refineries. One channel in, go back to my videos, not my videos, my images. Here's something we're not hearing about. The Bahamas not only has oil, it sits on the world's greatest treasure. 17 billion barrels were discovered in 1986. And from what I've been able to find, that amounts to about 3 million barrels a day. Ain't nobody said anything about these oil reservoirs, the tanks, that the lids were blown off and they're leaking oil just all over the place. Ain't nobody said anything about the lives, the marine life that's being affected. Now these 3 million barrels a day that they found is expected to increase once they put in this new refinery that they were planning to put in on, guess what? Grand Bahama. So they're going to put this refinery in Grand Bahama, which, as it turns out, was what? Not very effective. This was decimated. This was left in place. They're going to put a new refinery here. Okay. So let's look again at this. And this article is from April 3rd, 2014, Bahamas Press. Again, Bahamas and their oil. I won't go into detail, but you see it here, so you know where to go look for it. And it just talks about the history of the different drilling and things like that. Here's another article. The Tribune, November 2017. This is after Hurricane Harvey. $4.5 billion oil refinery for Grand Bahama. The government is embracing this oil storage terminal and refinery planned for East Grand Bahama. The same Grand Bahama that did not get decimated. They were some of the earliest evacuated. Okay. And the details of the project are buried in a recent presentation by the Central Bank of the Bahamas, which describes a $1.5 billion first phase investment in 20 million barrel multi-purpose bulk storage facility for petroleum products. Development is expected to be completed in 2021. This is 2019, so we're getting close. Just saying. Think about it. Oban Energies described the project site as East of Freeport along the Northwest Province Channel. East of Freeport along the Northwest Province. Okay. It's designed to facilitate, the storage facility is designed to facilitate the transfer of crude oil and other products to smaller vessels, which will then transport them to shallower ports in the U.S. Shallower ports in the U.S. So you have, let's go back to our map here. Along here you've got all these refineries here in the Louisiana, Houston area, right along in here in the Gulf, and then you bring it on down to Corpus. Just wondering. So, I'm not saying one thing one way or the other. I'm just saying, what's a few thousand lives? What's the property of other people? What is the marine life and a few $1 million in damage when there's potential to own the entire $1 billion or billions or trillions of dollars over the long haul? It's kind of one of those things where, yeah, I can go ahead and waste some of the milk now. I can go ahead and let go of all the other baby cows, because I know this one cash cow that's sitting in front of me is going to produce me the maximum amount in the long run. So I can dispose of all the other side cows, and I can waste a little bit that's coming out of this cow now, because I know when I own the cow, I'm set pretty good in the long run. We've seen where people, with their greed and their need for power, have sacrificed their lives. We see it every day. Every time you turn around, there's some event where people's lives are being lost. I can't help but take note that the Abyss Coast areas were totally decimated, and those areas were comprised of Haitians. We know the history of Haiti. We know the history of Haiti gaining its independence. So we know there's been kind of like an unofficial hatred, if you will, toward Haiti, toward the Haitians. We know every time the Haitians try to come in, they're booted back out, they're rejected. Anybody else can come into the U.S., seek asylum, seek whatever it is. They ain't got to seek asylum. They can just walk under the tunnels from Mexico into the U.S. They get here, you see them driving around without a license, whatever. Police don't even arrest them or anything. They just give them a ticket and send them on their way, knowing you'll never see them again. But if they find a Haitian, they hurry up and send them to ICE and deport them right on back out. But in this Hurricane Dorian, only people with passports and visas were allowed to leave at first. So if you had a passport and a visa, if you didn't have money for a passport or money for a visa already in hand, you weren't even allowed to leave. So the poor people were forced to stay there just because they didn't have the funds to be prepared. What happened to women, children, the elderly, the sick, and the strong men remained behind and they catch the tail end of the rescue efforts, while they could be there helping to rescue people who are buried under rubble. Use that manpower to help bury the people under rubble and evacuate the women and children, the elderly, the sick, etc. I'm just saying, just a thought. Keep in mind, how many children went missing in the earthquakes in Haiti? So we're leaving all of these children who don't have a whole lot of resources on the ground. How many of them will remain accounted for? Or before it's over with, who knows what happens. I remember hearing one of the news outlets, I can't remember which one, report, the government of the Bahamas wants to remind you all that only portions are affected, so tourism can continue in all the other areas. Make sure you come and visit. Also think of the fact that, what was it, Hidden Colors 5? Tariq Nasheed just released recently. He go to UK for the screening, pre-screening, or whatever it was, debut. And he's banned. He's not even allowed into the UK, into the country. He hadn't even hit the ground. He hadn't done nothing. Put out a movie and went for the screening. And I guess it took some phone calls or whatever, case may be. And it was decided, nope, don't let him in. Because of a movie he did? Really? Think about it, people. Here's another article I want you to see. Hurricane Dorian in the island of the Bahamas. And this was PR Newswire, August 31st, 2019. And it talks about the storm, which is now Category 4. At that point, it was Cat 4. And what they expected of it. Now, before the storm hit the Abacos Islands, they said very clearly, Bahamas is an archipelago with more than 700 islands and cays spread over 100,000 square miles, which means that the effects of Hurricane Dorian will vary greatly. We're deeply concerned about our northern islands, yet are relieved that most of the nation, including Nassau and Paradise Island, will remain unaffected. So I just wonder, this is Bahamas Ministry of Tourism and Aviation Director General who's making this statement. How is it? Why is it you're deeply concerned about the northern islands? How did you know in advance that the storm was going to come and sit there over those northern islands like that? It's before it hit, before it made landfall. It's coming in, but it hadn't made it yet. But you're concerned about those particular islands? It hadn't even hit yet. But we're relieved that most of the nation, including Nassau and Paradise Island, will remain unaffected. So, did you know ahead of time? Will remain unaffected. So that says you're predicting what's going to happen. So, did you have some prior knowledge that the storm was going to come in and sit, take a rest stop, and poop, if you will? Just some thoughts. And that is, again, PR Newswire, August 31st, 2019. It's a bigger map, if you will. We got this oil refinery. The Tribune says 4.5 billion oil refinery plan for Grand Bahama should be completed by 2021. And located outside the port area in East Grand Bahama. Grand Bahama says this. I've already said I didn't pull up any pictures of Venezuela, but we see they've got civil unrest. We know they've got bukus and bukus of oil down there they pulled. They've got about, 200 billion barrels of oil reserve, and all kinds of chaos going on in their country with the help of outsiders. Just some thoughts. And their oil can only be refined in Corpus Christi right now, which is right along in here. Yeah, it's right along in here, right actually where you see this red in this storm. How many times have we seen the lives of people sacrificed for greed and power? It's presented to us one way, but there's a motive. Just wondering. Again, I say think. What's said and what's not said. What you see, what you don't see. Connect your dots. The dots, whatever dots apply to you, connect your dots and govern yourselves accordingly.